All the microphones are on. I'm going to call the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for October 13th, 2021 to order. Tonight's board will be member Stephen Lianis, Fire Chief Brian Nardelli, member James Sweeney, and myself, Chairperson Kenneth Galligan. Our zoning enforcement officer, building superintendent, and clerk to the zoning board is Mr. James Plouffe. Our recording secretary tonight is Monica Fragazzo. I would ask, prior to the start of the meeting, if you have a phone or electronic device, if you can just shut it off or put it on silence, we would appreciate that. And if you do have to use your phone for any reason, just please go out into the corridor to use the phone. We have several cases tonight that have been withdrawn prior to the start of tonight's meeting. I'm going to read those cases so that if you are here tonight for these cases, they will not be heard tonight. I understand that they are going to be rescheduled for the November meeting. However, they will be re-advertised for that. So the first case that has been withdrawn tonight is petition number 2194, the Ralph J. Smith of 1019 Crescent Street, Brockton, Mass, for a variance from section 2712, subsection 1, to construct a single-family home in an R1C zone located at plot 37/0 Winter Street. That case has been withdrawn. What do you got there? The next one that has been withdrawn is petition number 2191. The petition of Dulafat and Berlange Jean, 30 Kennedy Circle, Southeastern Mass, for a variance from Article 3, Section 2710, Table 2, and Article 4, Section 2729 for a mixed use to allow 5 residential apartments. A variance for green space and seeking to convert existing building into a 100-seat restaurant, lacking required parking spaces for the same, but has in writing legal permission to have additional shared parking with the abutting church at C2 zone located at 1159 Main Street. That case will not be heard tonight. The next case that has been withdrawn is 2196, the petition of Jeffrey Vitera, 1183 Main Street, Weymouth, Mass, for a variance to convert a single-family home into a two-family home in an R2 zone located at 84 Myrtle Street. That case will not be heard tonight. The next one is 2197, the petition of Alicia Fernandez, 56 Ford Street, Brockton, Mass, for a variance from Article 3, Section 27.9, and Article 4, Section 2729, to raise the existing building and construct a two-family home in a C2 zone located at 1449 Main Street. That case will not be heard tonight. Petition number 2198, the petition of Red's Dairy, 18 Jefferson Street, Fall River, Mass, for a variance to develop commercial business, being a gas station and convenience store with a drive-through window. Also seeking curb cuts on Pleasant Street and Pennsylvania Avenue. Relief of buffer zone of 38 feet on the westerly side adjoining the entrance to DW Field Park, located in a C5 zone at 609 and 627 Pleasant Street. That case has been withdrawn and will not be heard tonight. Petition number 2199, the petition of Elevations Incorporated, 68 Hovenden Avenue, Brockton, Mass, for a special permit from Article 3, Section 2724, subsection 4, on adult use marijuana, for permission to operate a marijuana establishment for retail sale in this building, which requires approval in a C3 zone located at 156 to 160 Main Street. That case has been withdrawn. Case number 21100, the petition of Elevations Incorporated, 68 Hovenden Avenue, Brockton, Mass, for a variance from Article 3, Section 2724, subsection 4, on adult use marijuana. Section 3B, subsection I, marijuana retail operations shall not be conducted or located on the ground floor in a C3 zone located at 156-160 Main Street. That case has been withdrawn and will not be heard tonight. Prior to the start of tonight's hearing, if there is anyone here that wants to withdraw without prejudice prior to the start of the meeting, this is the time that you would withdraw. Is there anyone here that wants to withdraw? Seeing none, we'll move on. The procedure that we will use tonight is that when I call the case, the petitioner or person who is going to speak on the case will come to the podium up here at the front of the chamber. All the petitioners and people in interest that are sitting in the gallery should be wearing a mask and be socially distancing. When you come to the podium, it is acceptable to remove your mask because otherwise it becomes very difficult to hear what's going on. As you leave the podium and go back to the gallery, we would appreciate it if you would again put your mask on. Following the presentation by the petitioner, I will then ask the board members if they have any questions relative to what was just presented by the presenter. Following that, I will then open it up to the public discussion, and I will call for anyone that wants to speak in favor. At that point, if you want to speak in favor of the petition, you would come forward, give your name to the clerk, and say what you want to say that's in favor. When that is done, I will close that portion of the hearing. I will say then, is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition? Same thing, if you want to speak in opposition, you come up to the podium, say what you want to say in opposition, speak to us, and give your name to the clerk. When that is done, I will close that portion of the hearing. Lastly, I'll ask if there's any elected officials in the room that want to be heard on the issue. Following that, I will close that portion of the hearing, and then I will open it up for deliberation from the board members. Now, at this point of the hearing, the public discussion on the hearing has been closed, and among the board members, a discussion will take place about what was just presented and any comments that any board members may have relative to the issue. A motion should be made to grant. If that motion is seconded, then it would come to a vote. We will call for a roll call vote by name. Following that, I will be told what the vote is, and then I will announce whether or not the petition has been granted or denied. Now, in tonight's case, with a four-person board, it requires all four members to vote in the affirmative for a petition to be successful. With a five-member board, it can be a 4-to-1 vote with one dissenting and 4 in favor, and it will pass. On a four-person board, it requires all four members to vote in the affirmative in order for a petition to pass. So tonight, I think we have 5 cases. Did I hit everything? I think I did. All right, the first case before the board tonight is Petition 2189, the petition of James Meeks, 36 Draper Street, Brockton, Mass., for a variance from Article 3, Section 27.9, Article 3, Section 2713A, and Article 3, Section 2714, to subdivide an existing lot of record into 2 lots and construct a single-family dwelling on the newly created lot, lacking frontage, width, and area, and the existing house needs relief due to lack of side and frontage in an R1C zone located at 88 Kingman Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, and through you to the members of the board. Attorney Jake Creedon, 71 Legion Parkway, Brockton, With me is Scott Farrier of J.K. Holmgren Engineers. Good evening, and also with me is Jim Meeks, who is the petitioner this evening. The zone is an R1C zone, which is single-family residential. For all of those members that have not seen Draper Street previously, because I did do several subdivision situations on that street, and if you've been there recently to look at it, you'd see that those are beautiful brand-new houses, mostly built by Jim himself. One of the reasons is that Jim lives across the street from the proposed subdivision lot. The two lots that are existing are on Kingman Street. I can tell you from my own history, because I lived and grew up for the first 12 years of my life on the lot that Jim built his new house. My grandmother and grandfather owned all that land all around there, all the way in most of what is now known as the Hill Street project. We had our own pond and other things. However, in this particular situation, I can tell you that way back in, believe it or not, 1888, in the Salisbury Heights planning situation, both of these lots that we are proposing existed. I would, with the permission, offer only that's what the assessor's office had back then. They existed along the way, obviously, since 1888, those lots merged. The two owners of those two lots have entered into a purchase and sale agreement legally with Mr. Meeks to develop, hopefully, that subdivision. Again, the variance is needed, and both of these lots, the second petition, which you'll hear shortly, has the same exact information. All four lots that, if it is subdivided, as Scott will tell you, a 6,906 square feet. Obviously, in our present zoning, it requires 30,000 square feet. It requires 175 frontage. I can tell you that the previous ones that were recently granted saw that this neighborhood, which is a dead-end street, that dead-ended into the old Kingman School, now the Brockton Library, East Side branch. That will remain a dead-end street. There's no further ability to develop anything, but if you've actually visited the street, you can see what a beautiful job, and in the interest of hardship and other things, you will see that this is totally, if granted, totally in harmony with all the other houses there, all the same frontages, all of the other situations. I might add, because I grew up there, Clark Street, which is the street behind Draper Street, and Kingman Street have all new houses on it of similar size. So the harmony that the fathers of this city, when they did the zoning, wanted to make neighborhoods very homogeneous and wanted them to be good. If you have seen and been to the location, you can see the very unruly and hazardous overgrown lot situation. Traditionally, that has caused trash to build up, people to hang out in there, mainly kids. And this is, in my opinion, and I would suggest Scott's opinion also, the highest and best use to finish off completely that street. And again, it's a beautiful street with many new houses similar that were built by Jim. Jim and his wife and kids live right across the street from this. Scott, would you indicate the two houses that we're requesting would be 34 by 34 with farmer porches, and I can tell you that the farmer porches would face to the west. Kingman Street is to the west, direct west of Draper Street, with a deck on the side. Scott, will you give us some of that?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. Just to expand on what Attorney Creedon said, our two proposed lots, lots 3 and 4, that front on Draper Street, The proposed homes on each of those lots meet all of the zoning requirements for an R1C zone. They meet the front yard, rear yard, and both side yard setbacks. So no relief is needed from your zoning setbacks for the two new lots. The other thing to make note of, and we've shown it on the plan, all of the abutting lots are all the exact same size. They're all 6,909 square feet at the bottom of Draper, alongside of us on Draper, and up above on Kingman Street, on both sides of Kingman. So it is, as Attorney Creedon said, would be in harmony with the rest of the neighborhood. Everybody has a 6,900-foot lot with roughly 65 feet of frontage, so we have the same thing. The other thing that we've been concerned with in the past is any additional runoff that would be created by the proposal and the elimination of the wooded lots on Draper Street. So to accommodate that, we have proposed roof drainage systems for each of the proposed dwellings in the front and in the back. So there'll be gutters going into downspouts into an infiltration system that'll recharge all of the groundwater, so there will be no drainage impacts on any of the neighboring houses or the neighboring streets.
I can tell you that there is obviously utilities already on the street. The diagrams here show where the new entrances would be if this is allowed. What I would suggest to you, and just keep, these are what I think are real good points about what we're talking about. Number one, it's a dead-end street. Number two, as we've said, it's going to be harmonious with the rest of the houses. Three, it will not create any kind of traffic or safety issue. The only safety issue that exists now is that the lots are overgrown. I think, I think maybe Mr. Chairman will remember a fella testified who lives next door here that he's now disabled, sitting in a wheelchair, and the trees hang over onto his property, which gets me to the most suggested hardship, and that is, which was the reason for these other ones to be granted, is that, and Scott will tell you, the slope of the land from Kingman Street down to Draper Street is fairly significant. Scott, is it not?
There's about an 8-foot difference from Kingman to Draper.
So clearly that is part of that, the hardship there. It will certainly not negatively impact the neighborhood. In fact, it will enhance the beauty of that street and pretty much close it off for any future development, because all the lots will be of similar nice houses, new houses, and I think that would be something that the city would like to see, given the fact that there are plenty of people looking for good, brand-new housing, which don't generally present major fire hazards, okay? I think that's about all of the situation that we want to bring up, and would obviously be willing to take questions.
All right, board members, any questions? So the case we're dealing with right now on this plan is number 88, which is the northernmost line to the right.
Known as Lot 4 on the plan.
All right, so just to clarify what I think I heard you say, the farmer's porch will be on the east side of the house, not the west side. Farmer's porch will be facing Draper Street. And the east side. It'll be facing east.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, just to clarify that.
Yep.
And the other one was the deck is not going to be on the side of the house, it's proposed to be on the rear of the house. Okay.
Correct.
So now, when we're looking at this 88 Kingman Street, we're actually looking at relief for Lot 4 and Lot 2,
Correct.
because Lot 2 is going to become more non-conforming here.
Correct.
So we have a side yard setback on 88 that has to be addressed on this. If it's granted, that would be addressed on the side yard setback.
It's just under the front side too. Those are, again, for the board's edification, those are existing structures. Those are the existing houses, or this one is.
In some of these old neighborhoods with that frontage that's deficient from what's required today. We take into consideration the frontage of all the older houses on the street, and if it's in conformance, that kind of helps the case a little bit. So these would be in conformance. So the existing houses are what they are. There's nothing changing on the lot except the total square footage of that lot.
That is correct.
So what we're going to vote on here on number 88 Kingman Street is relief from the current house on Kingman Street and relief to allow the house to be built on Draper Street.
Lots 2 and 4.
Okay. The other thing that I was notified is that the petitioner has already gone to the planning board.
We have.
And in the planning board, all the members should have a copy of that from the planning board. There's a typographical error on this letter from the planning board, and it is number 2. The definitive plan shall show that Kingman Street is to be milled down 1.5 inches and overlaid with 1.5 inches of hot mix from corner to corner, curb line to curb line for the limits of the subdivision. That's a typo, and I checked with the planning, and that really should say Draper, not Kingman.
Yes.
Okay, so we're all in agreement that that's where it's going to be, not on Kingman Street.
Nothing is changing on Kingman Street, other than it's reducing its lot size.
Okay, any other questions from any board members? If not, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Please come forward and give your name to the clerk.
Your name?
My name is Edie Mitchell, and I live at 88 Kingman, and I hope that you will approve this proposal because we are in a situation where the house is really in need of a lot of repairs on 88 Kingman, and if we don't sell the land, we can't do the repairs. And the house was built in 89, I believe, and I just hope that this can go through so that we can get things done at the house. It's an eyesore on the street, and I know that our neighbor, too, feels the same way. So, again, I thank you for this meeting, and I hope that things can go through favorably in the direction it,
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak in favor? Please give your name to the clerk.
Yes, my name's Sterling Minor. I stay at 17 Draper Street. And the lot that they're referring to is overgrown. Trees are falling. Actually, I had 2 or 3 trees fall over my house that the insurance could get care of it, but trees are still leaning towards that way. And the overgrowth, I mean, we got a bunch of wild animals running around there. Poison ivy is coming from over there, over to the fence. I'm scared the kids out there riding bike. I don't know if some wild animal, rabies or something might come out after them because it's a nice neighborhood and we got kids riding up and down the street. I actually be scared of my wife in the garden because that's my mindset. Something over there wild come out the woods, you know what I'm saying? So since I've been there, I've seen possums, raccoons, I done seen every type of animals there is. I'm from the country. I seen groundhogs, and I never saw groundhogs till I saw them over there. So for it to be developed, it would be nice to the community. We got a nice, respectful community. Everybody look out for everybody, and I think it's just too many hazards. So just to sit there and not be developed. So that's basically what I'm saying, you know.
Okay, very good.
All right.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that wants to speak in favor? Please give your name and address to the clerk.
My name is Jose Mendez. I live at 35 Draper Street. And I hope you guys approve it because of the trees there. Every time there's a windstorm, I'm always afraid it's going to fall on my house. And that's the side that my kids sleep on. And it's just like, it needs to be, hopefully, they need to put some houses there because it's really bad. You got people hanging out in there at night, don't know what's happening, you know? So I think it'll be a safer neighborhood if those two are developed. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to speak in favor?
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Mr. Meeks. I developed a lot on that street. I built 200 feet of road, that was what's woods. I live in one of the houses. I plan on, you know, staying there the rest of my life, so I wouldn't be building shacks, so to speak. They're gonna be beautiful homes to beautify the neighborhood. So, and the existing lots, I don't know if you guys have been down there, it's overgrown, it's weeds, like the gentleman said, it's a dump now, everybody's dumping stuff in there, you know, people are scared to go by there, kids are hanging out in there now in front of the cars. It just needs to be, you know, brought up to snuff, so to speak. So,
Okay, thank you. What's your address?
my address is 36 Draper. I lived at 24 Draper for 25, so I've been on that street 25 years. And
Okay,
I've
very good.
developed 3 houses there already, and hopefully we can do 2 more beautiful homes. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak in favor? If not, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Before I open it up for deliberation from the board, I do have a question that I meant to ask that I missed. The driveways on these 2 proposed new houses, are they going to be double deep driveways, 2 cars deep? Yes. Okay. If this is granted, that will be a stipulation, and that the green space in the front of these houses will remain as grass. The front of those yards will not be paved over, and we will refer to the plans that were submitted on 8/9/21. Everybody's okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, I am now going to open it up for deliberation by the board members. Board members, anything you want to say on this?
I think it's a nice project. I think it adds value to the city.
Mr. Chairman, I would have to agree. Driving by there are some beautiful homes at the end of that street, and it's unfortunate this lot is very overgrown. There's rubbish collected there. I think one of those possums ran out in front of me. But that's all I have.
I went and looked at it myself, and I think it would be a betterment to the neighborhood. It is really in conformance with all the other lots on the street. But I just want to make sure that we all understand that if this is granted, that what we're looking at tonight is what we're going to see when it's built. So,
No problem, Chair.
all right, if there is no other questions, I'll ask somebody to make a motion.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Landis.
Yes.
Chief Nardelli.
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes.
Chair Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
The vote is 4 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted with the stipulations that the grass as shown, the green space will be as shown, and the driveways will be as shown. Okay, the next petition, 2190, petition of James Meeks, 36 Draper Street, Brockton, Mass. For a variance from Article 3, Section 27.9, Article 3, Section 2713A, and Article 3, Section 2714, to subdivide an existing lot of record into 2 lots and construct a single-family dwelling on the newly created lot lacking frontage, width, and area, and the existing house needs relief due to lack of side and frontage in an R1C zone located at 94 Kingman Street.
Thank you again. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, through you, members of the board, Jake Creedon, and with me is Scott Farrier. In the interest of time, it's the same exact basic presentation for this house, which is lots 1 is the existing dwelling, and the proposed new lot on Draper Street is lot 3. You heard from some of the neighbors, obviously, who are very much in favor of this. The whole street is, quite honestly, and it's a higher and best use, to be honest with you, from a zoning legal point of view.
Question I have on number 94 Kingman Street. Why is the existing driveway being relocated?
It's just being widened, Mr. Chairman. Right
Okay, so that's showing two-car widths side by side.
Yes.
Okay, now I got it. Any questions from board members? Nobody? I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'm going to ask if there's anyone in favor. If the same people are in favor, just come up and say you're in favor, and I already heard what you had to say, so if you just kind of repeat what you had to say, if that's the case.
You don't have to repeat, just come up and say you're in favor if you are.
Yes, we are in favor of this.
This is
proposal.
88 Kingman.
Yes,
Yep,
80
got it.
Mitchell, okay? Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak in favor?
Sterling Minor, 17 Draper Street. I'm in favor.
Thank you.
Jose Mendez, 35 Draper Street, in favor.
Thank you. How about Mr. Meeks? Is he in favor of this one?
I'm definitely in favor. I promise, everything that's on that plan will be built.
Okay, is there anyone else that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I am now going to open it up to deliberations by the board. One thing I want to mention on this is they went to the planning board to get permission to subdivide these lots because they are the only ones that can subdivide it. And it appears as though they had no opposition to subdividing it, with the exception that they were going to resurface the street in the front. That's how I understand it. That how
Right.
the board understands
That's
it?
right,
too?
yep.
Yeah, yeah. That's how you understood it?
That's how I understand it.
So, I would suggest that when we put this together, the stipulation will be that these dwellings will be built as shown on a plan submitted to us dated 8/9/21, with a double driveway on Draper Street, double D, and the remaining grass in the front of the house will remain grass. It shall not be paved over. I'll tell you, we have a problem with these things from time to time about having grass in the front. And I'll just say that it would be very helpful that when a petitioner comes in and agrees that there will be grass in the front of the house, it would be very helpful if the developer would put something along the property line of the sidewalk that would delineate the grass from the sidewalk, or try to make it so that, you know, what we're looking for here actually does happen.
It's a good suggestion, Mr. Chairman.
So something to think about for a... All right. The chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to grant?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lantis.
Yes.
Chief Nardelli.
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes.
Chair Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
Vote is 4 in the affirmative with none in the negative. The petition is granted with those stipulations.
Thank you, members of the board.
Thank you. Yep. The next petition is 2192, the petition of Carlos Gomes, 102 Linda Avenue, Brockton, Mass., for a variance to construct a two-car garage in an R2 zone located at 12 Linda Avenue.
Good evening, members. My name is Carlos Gomes. I live at 12 Linda Avenue. I'm father of 4, and I work with Brockton Public Schools. I'm here today to ask for relief on setback on the two-car garage that I built. I bought my house in 2014. I've been fixing it ever since, and what I was looking for, it was two-car garage. And I went on vacation. I left my contractors to build it, and they didn't do the setback, like the proper setback. I'm asking you guys to give me a release on the setback. I also have some letters from the neighbors. I don't know if my permission to give it to them.
What do you have? Okay, and what do those letters indicate? We have I'll save that too when we get to that portion of it, okay? Is that all you got to say about it?
Yes, I think.
Okay. Board members, any comments, any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I just had, this was a licensed contractor that performed this?
No, the guys there usually do just my subcontractors.
And they
I
pulled the
permit myself.
You pulled the permit for
Yeah.
themselves? And they built this on basically right on the edge of the property?
2.5 feet apart.
Yeah, I drove by it. It's pretty close. Okay.
So does this garage have a full cement floor?
Oh, yeah, yes.
I just want to get a time frame here. They poured the cement floor and the garage was built, and you said you were on vacation.
I went on vacation, yeah.
And when you came home from vacation, the garage was built?
Yes.
What's that time frame?
I was away for 17 days.
How many?
17 days.
70?
17.
17.
17, yep.
So in 17 days, they poured the cement foundation and built that garage?
Garage, correct.
Okay. Okay, so the plans that were submitted to the city indicated that this garage was going to be 5.4 feet from the rear setback and 5.4 from the left side or the north side of that garage. When it was built, the back setback is 1.3 feet and the left side or the north side is 2.6. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the zoning requirement for this building is that it has to be a minimum of 5 feet
5 feet.
from the property line.
Right.
Okay, so you're asking for relief from setback for this building, both rear yard setback and side yard setback.
Correct.
That's what you're looking for.
Yes.
Okay. There is nothing on here that indicates how much green space there is in this yard. It would have been helpful if we knew, well, it does say existing green space. I'm sorry, it does in very fine print. 46 proposed, 3806. The other issue is the size of this garage in relation to the size of the dwelling that's on the property. The garage is 672 square feet. The size of the house is 775 square feet. Our ordinance of 2725 says that this garage cannot exceed 30% of the square footage of the house that's on that lot. The garage has to be a minimum of 10 feet away from the house. So this garage is way over what would be allowed. For the house of 775 square feet, we're looking at a garage that legally could be 233 square feet. This garage is 672 square feet. So it's pretty much double what is allowed without a variance.
Mr.
We
Chairman?
have had, just for the
The
edification.
garage is, sorry, the garage is small, it's less than 600 square feet. I'm pretty sure it's less than 600 square feet. The plan that's submitted to the city, I believe is way less than 600 square feet. It's 20,
Garage is 28 by 24?
no, it's 24 by 25.
Okay. So it's still, even with your dimensions, it's still way oversized as opposed to what is allowed without a variance.
Okay.
Okay, you understand that? So at this point, we have a garage that's been constructed as too large for the property that it sits on, and a garage that's been constructed that's too close to the property line that is allowed. So several things you're looking for here. The other thing we don't know is the distance between the garage and the house, and that can't be less than 10 feet.
It's more than 10 feet.
Okay, well, the plan doesn't show that, so.
Mr. Chairman, is it okay to ask the question to the building superintendent?
Sure.
What's the average curing time of concrete?
It gets about, its full strength or its design strength is 28 days.
Okay, can something be built on that prior to 28 days?
It's not suggested, but it could be after about 14 days. You probably have a good amount of strength in that concrete to be able to put something on it.
Thank you. I'm just, the question, Chairman, is because of the time in which it was built.
Can I say something too? It also depends on the type of concrete that you buy. Yeah, that depends on it too.
It depends upon what?
On the concrete, the type of concrete that you buy.
So you're saying that they could construct the garage on the cement foundation in less than 28 days?
Me personally, we usually build a house, we put the concrete 1 week, next week we start building a house. That's how I usually do it.
Okay.
It usually depends on the type of concrete you pour in.
The only other thing I want to mention to the board is we have a prior case similar to this that went to the Superior Court relative to the size of a garage as it relates to the size of the structure that's on the lot. And we were challenged on what we're talking about tonight, and the Superior Court upheld the decision of the Zoning Board of Appeals relative to what is in our zoning. So what is in our zoning was upheld. What he's looking for tonight is relief from the size of that garage and relief from the side yard setback. And the plan that was submitted to the city that he got, I assume you got a building permit on this thing to build this
Yes.
garage. So that the building permit was based upon the location of the garage. I'm a little dismayed that the building permit allowed that size garage without coming before zoning, but whatever happened there happened. But in the end, when the garage was constructed, it was constructed not in accordance with the plans that were submitted by the city, and it was constructed too close to the side yard and rear yard setback. Any other questions from the board? If not, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? I have a letter that has been submitted tonight to the board from Miguel Nunez, 17 Linder Avenue, in support of the garage. I have another letter from John Baptista, 11 Linda Avenue, supporting the construction of the garage at 12 Linda Avenue. I have a third letter in support of the construction of the two-car garage from Ricky Huynh, 26 Marlene Avenue. So those letters were submitted tonight by the petitioner. So is there anyone else that wants to speak in favor? If not, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Please come forward to the podium and give your name to the...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, gentlemen and ladies of the board. I'm grateful for the opportunity to
Please give your name and address before you start.
My name is Thomas Ogbu, 32 Marlene Avenue.
32 Marlene?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today to plead that the building code and ordinances of the city of Brockton should be respected, upheld, irrespective of who is concerned. Mr. Chairman, may I inform you that I have submitted a written argument against the application by my neighbor, Mr. Gomes, and on the advice of my counsel, I would plead that that be read into record. Mr. Chairman, I immigrated to the United States of America, as you must have perceived from my accent, and I apologize for that, in pursuit of liberty and happiness, not in my own terms, but under the laws of the land. Mr. Chairman, I'm neither an engineer nor an attorney, and I cannot claim expertise in the matters before you today. I know how to diagnose diseases and treat sick people. I'm a nurse practitioner who has served this city for 18 years and still counting. I also know a bully. I know a troublemaker, and I know a cheat when I see one. I'm here today because my neighbor, Mr. Carlos Gomes, whom I respect very much, has consistently demonstrated that he does not want to live in peace with his neighbors. Right from the first time he moved into that house, he cut down 2 beautiful trees situated on the property line without even the courtesy of seeking my input. He apologized when I confronted him, but now I know that that apology was feigned. It didn't come from the heart. In fact, he was testing how far he could bully me or take undue advantage of me. In August this year, he started constructing a humongous 2-car garage, less than 3 feet to my fence, in clear and flagrant violation of Chapter 4 of the City Building Ordinance. And when he was caught, he turned around to seek refuge before this board. If I had let him have his way this time, just the same way I let him have his way when he cut down those 2 trees, we wouldn't have been here today. He would have walked away with blatant and willful violation of the building code of the city and utter disregard of the rights of me, of my rights and the rights of the neighbors to live in peace and enjoy the serenity of their compounds. His action is not only clear abuse of building code, but a demonstration of selfishness and disregard to his neighbors. Today, from his yard, you can see my children eating in my dining table because he took down those trees that shielded me and my family. I did nothing about that because I wanted a good neighbor. Then he told me he was going to build a swimming pool, and I said, well, that's understandable. Trees and swimming pool, let it be. But you know what, Mr. Chairman? I know that it turned out he was planning all this while to build a garage. I know, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, that you have a difficult task sitting on this board, so more without any financial compensation as you provide this selfless service to the city of Brockton. I applaud you. I do not envy your job at all. You make difficult decisions, but you have to send strong and clear warning to everybody out there
who willfully choose to violate the building code, that this city of champions, the law is the law. People like Mr. Gomes cannot be allowed to recklessly abuse the rights of their neighbors and violate city ordinances. Mr. Chairman, my neighbor, who I respect very much, cannot demonstrate hardship as required under Chapter 4 of the City Building Ordinance. He has ample space in his yard to move his garage 10 feet away from my fence. There are no rocks, there are no swamps, there are no gullies in his yard that will warrant the board to grant him leeway to build a garage 3 feet to my fence. He has options, but he chose to violate the law and not only violate the rights of his neighbors, including myself, to live in liberty and enjoy the serenity of our private homes. Otherwise, why would he reserve a chunk of the land in his yard and place this garage right by my fence? Remember, he already cut the trees that shielded me. Now the whole place is naked. The answer to that question is that he feels that he can get away with it. And surely he would have gotten away with it if not for the fact that I called the city this time around. And when he was caught, he turned around to come to the board. The board, the zoning board, from my own understanding, is not meant to create a leeway for people who flagrantly violate the building ordinance. It's not. Mr. Chairman, honorable members of the board, I thank you for listening to my case. I have confidence that you will do the right thing in this matter by sending a clear and strong message to people out there that this city is a city where rule prevails. God bless you. God bless the city of Brockton, and God bless the United States of America. And if you please, I will show you, I will give this to you in picture, how my property looked before he cut down the trees, what it looks today, and the humongous garage in question, and how close, how imposing it is to the fence. Would you want me to approach and submit this, the evidence? This is before the trees were cut. This is after the trees were cut. This is the garage, the opening of the garage, and this is empty space here. You could easily move it. This is how close it is to my property. And this is how close the humongous garage is to his own property, which Mr. Chairman observes is too big for that size of lot. Thank you very much.
All right, I have been to the site, I've seen these. Do you want to share these? Mr. Clerk, can you give that? Board member, do you want to see these photos before we take a vote on this thing?
I'm okay. Jim, I'm good.
You're okay? All right, is there any, you all done, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is there anyone else here that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official here that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'm now going to open it up for deliberations by the board. Board members.
I personally don't buy the fact that he had this investment in this project and the next day just chose to walk away and not supervise it. And the other letters that he had there were from the neighbors across the street that aren't directly affected by this garage. And plus the garage is also at almost 3 times the size of what it should be. I don't know. That's all I got to say about that for now.
I think I'd agree with that statement. Seems to be a little bit too much coincidence in not knowing about the trees and then not knowing about the boundary.
I would agree.
It appears the two things we're looking at here is the setback of the garage and the size of the garage. And garage is overbearing for that lot. The other interesting thing is, in his presentation, I didn't hear any indication of a hardship expressed at all on this thing, other than the fact that he was away on vacation and came home and the garage was built. I don't think that's a hardship, because it doesn't pertain to the soil topography or anything that we usually consider, so. Any other discussion by board members? If not, the chair would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to grant, hope that it fails.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant with the hope that it does not prevail. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Landis.
No.
Chief Nardelli.
No.
Mr. Sweeney.
No.
Chair Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chair, that's 0 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative.
The vote is no votes in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. The petition is denied. So now I guess it's in the hands of the building inspector. All right, the next petition is 2193, the petitioner Ricky De Silva, 281 Pleasant Street, Suite 9, Brockton, Mass, for a variance from Article 3, Section 2729, to construct a two-family home with ample parking and ingress-egress in an R2 zone located at Plot 11/0 Merton Street.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name's Chris Vale. I'm here with Scott Ferrier, the engineer, for Ricky De Silva, the petitioner. This is a petition to the board seeking a variance under Article 3, Section 27-29 in order to build a two-family residence on a grandfathered existing lot in a R2 zone. Although multifamily structures are allowed in an R2 zone, the petitioner is seeking a variance due to the frontage of the lot being 60 out of the required 100 feet. Also, the lot containing 7,200 square feet, in which a variance is required also for the lot size. Some facts particular to this lot is that it's located on Merton Street in the city of Brockton. Mr. De Silva bought this property in August, which is a recorded lot in an R2 zone. The building department has previously approved the lot as being grandfathered to construct a single-family home, as there are, to build a single-family home. However, due to the fact that there are multifamilies throughout that immediate area, Mr. De Silva is desiring to construct a two-family home. As I stated, the lot contains 7,200 square feet, as well as the fact that it is similar in size to the abutting lots. Mr. De Silva wants to construct this, the two-family home on the vacant land that currently contains a garage. This garage will be removed in order to provide ample green space for the multifamily. The proposed structure will meet all the necessary side and rear setback, as well as parking requirements of an R2 zone. If you see in the plan, we do have sides of setbacks of 17.5 feet, as well as the rear being 36 feet. However, the proposed two-family home will fit well within the neighborhood due to several abutters having multi 3 and 6 family residents. I did attach in the application, but we blew it up. As you can see, all with the reds, these are all either 2 families, 3 families, 6 families, all along the locus. In regards to the hardship, Mr. De Silva's property is unique due to the fact that the lot is grandfathered in an R2 zone that allows for multifamily properties. Due to the lack of housing and a new multifamily property would be beneficial to the city of Brockton. The property lends itself to being a two-family use, and to be required to construct a single family in a two-family zone would be a hardship for Mr. De Silva. I also had Mr. De Silva bring back some photos of past projects that the board did grant him variances on, in which he takes pride in his work, in which he's built beautiful homes, in which he does plan on building a beautiful multifamily with this project as well. So with that said, we are asking for the variance.
If I could add one thing, Mr. Chairman?
Certainly.
I wish this was first on the agenda tonight. I do have vertical granite curbing and a split rail fence between the two driveways to ensure that there is no parking in front of the building between the two driveways, as we discussed at the previous hearing.
You read my mind.
I did.
You know, the reason I bring that up is we did this at another location in the city where there was two driveways, one on each side, and they put a granite edge stone along the border of the property and the sidewalk. And to this day, the green space is maintained because they can't drive over the, so for a developer, that's something to kind of keep in mind. I'll tell you, this board is getting sick and tired of granting variances where the plans show to us that there is a driveway with green space, and we go back 6 months later and the entire front yard is nothing but a sea of blacktop. That is not fair, not only to the board, it's in violation of what we granted, but it's also one of the things that destroys neighborhoods. So, well, I have to say that because as a board member, I think it's totally unfair to the board that a petitioner stands here and tells us everything will be done like the plan says. And even then, when I write my decision, I have to reference the plan so that at least we can go back at some point and reference that. But as a developer, when you see this coming down the road, it's something like you're suggesting can help a lot of people, so. Board members, any comments?
I have a couple of questions. The driveways, are they double deep? How are the cars configured in those driveways?
Realistically, there's enough room there, about 17 feet wide.
Side by side?
Yeah, there's enough room for side by side and
Okay.
front to back as well, so
Okay.
a little bit of flexibility, Chief.
All right. One other thing too, just driving by the property, there's a serious grade issue from where that property is to number 68 Merton. Are there concerns of drainage issues with the property being built on there?
We don't have it shown, Chief, but we could certainly put in some, a drainage system for the roof runoff like we did in the previous submission to make sure that we handle any increase in runoff.
Understood.
To make sure that there's nothing heading over towards number 68. It does drop off quite a bit.
Okay. That's all I have.
Mr. Chair, if I could, how many bedrooms per are we doing here?
There's 3 bedrooms, right?
So it's gonna be 3 bedrooms on the first floor, and then the second unit is actually a duplex style unit. So it's gonna be 5 on that unit, so it'll be a total of
8 bedrooms total in the building?
Yep.
Okay.
I am of the understanding that this lot has been grandfathered to allow the construction of a single-family house.
Yes.
So if this was approved tonight, you could get a two-family. If it's not approved, you can put a single-family.
That's his intention, yes.
Okay. When you look at the plan, it's too bad that, I guess plot 142 was intended to be used with the plot next to it. When you look at the existing dwelling at number 58 and where that dwelling was placed on that lot, it was never put in the middle of the lot. It was put off to the side, and then the garage and driveway that services number 58 is actually on plot 142. So somewhere down the road years ago, when this was laid out, whoever developed this parcel or two parcels intended for those two parcels to be used together as a unit. Legally, I guess what we have here is two parcels that can be used legally separately. So by the construction on plot 142, the side yard setback for this dwelling at number 58 only becomes 5 feet. That house is sitting right on the property line of this proposed new development. So that's one of the things that I wanted to mention, that it would appear that years ago, these were designed to be used in conjunction with each other, and now because of how a deed was put together or whatever, legally, they can be used separately. I don't understand what the hardship is with this, other than there are other two families in the neighborhood. What is unique about this piece of property that makes it such that we should allow a two-family to be built? The lot is too small in square footage, and it doesn't have enough frontage for a two-family. So there's a couple of things working here.
Yes, as you pointed out, the fact that the abutting house is very close to his property line, I do believe that that's a hardship, as well as the fact that it is the size and shape of the lot as well. I did mention that the fact that there is multifamilies and the fact that it is an R2 zone, which, due to the fact that he's grandfather, he is allowed to build a single family. However, in that R2 zone, if the size was big enough, he would be able to have a multifamily. So that is some of the hardships that I've mentioned.
So it would appear that a lot of the other multifamilies in that area up there were all built prior to 1967, prior to zoning. So they are pretty much grandfathered in where they are. So this lot here is a standalone lot that, in order to put a two-family on this lot, requires why you're here tonight.
Correct.
And I'm a little concerned with the hardship on it, so. All right. Any other questions from board members? We good? All right, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition?
Chairman, so gentlemen,
There's one, Mr. Chair.
Okay, come right up front to the podium, please. I didn't see you back there. If you feel comfortable, you can remove your mask, or you can keep it on, whatever. And please give your name and address to the clerk.
My name is Harold Jones. I'm at 68 Merton Street. I've been there for 20 years. And I got this in the mail, and I have a lot of questions. I don't know, maybe I should have came with a lawyer. What number of Merton Street is this construction going to happen on?
What is the question?
What number?
Well, number 58 is the existing
58.
house. When you look at number 58, there's a vacant lot to the right of it. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I live at 68, so I'm quite familiar with it.
Oh, all right. Well, that lot that's between the house that's to the left of you, that vacant lot that's in between with the garage out in the back, that's
Yes.
the lot that we're
Yep.
talking about tonight.
I'm familiar with it, yes. And I'm familiar with the past owners, too. And I agree with you. I don't think there's enough room there for a two-family. Possibly maybe a single family. We already have a lot of traffic on the street, and properties around that area are mostly single family.
So I guess the question I have of you, are you in opposition to the building of a two-family?
Yes. However, I'm not against a single family.
So it appears that if they are denied the two-family, they can build a single on that lot.
I'm not in opposition to that. I think that would make more sense, rather than packing into the neighborhood a two-family, and that would mean, an extra piece of traffic. That would mean, more individuals around there, which we have a neighborhood crime watch going on, and we have a lot of other things going on there, and why increase an already crowded area when it's really not necessary? And, and I'm familiar with the people that just sold that property. They've been there for a century, And so it's been quite a stable neighborhood. And for me, I think it would be a shock to my family and friends to see a two-family in there.
Do you know if that number 58, the house that's there now, is that a two-family or a single-family, to your knowledge?
It's a two-family. It's a two-family, and I think it must have been built around 1900. You know, so we've been there for 20 years. I'm originally from Boston. I'm third generation Bostonian. And I like Brockton. I think it's a good community. So, you know, that's my opinion. And I think that it should be really thought out to have a two-family in there. It's a lot of construction going on. There's kids around.
Okay, very good. I appreciate your input on this. You got anything else to add, or is that it?
No, that's good for right now. Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here that wants to speak in opposition? If not, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing, and now I am going to open it up for the board for deliberations. Board members, any comments?
I think that's, just seems like the situation is more suited for a single family. He did say, applicant did say 8 bedrooms was the plan. I think that would be where I'm at with it.
I agree, and I'm not too clear on the hardship either, on that.
It's a squeeze with a two-family of that size. It's not a 2 and 2. It's an 8-bedroom with a, you know, a non-conforming lot that would be very populated.
Well, that also speaks to the need for 100-foot frontage rather than a 60-foot frontage.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other comments? Or you want to make a motion? The board would entertain, or the
Motion
chair
to
would
approve in
entertain.
the hopes that it fails?
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant with the hope that it fails. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lanus,
No.
Chief Nardelli,
No.
Mr. Sweeney,
No.
Chair Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chair, that's 0 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative.
The vote is no affirmative votes, 4 in the negative. The petition for a two-family house is denied. The next petition, 2195, the petition of Brendan and Sally O'Neill, 794 Pearl Street, Brockton, for a variance from Article 3, Section 27-9, to recognize the property as an existing two-family home, or alternatively, to convert the home into a two-family, as it was according to the property's historical records, and seeking relief from lot size, side setback, and frontage in an R1B zone located 794 Pearl Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you to the member of the board, Attorney Jay Creed, and with me is Scott Farry of J. Cray Holmgren, and Mr. and Mrs. O'Neill, Brendan and Sally. First, if you would, Mr. Chairman, I would like to give a little bit of a historical presence to that, to this petition. Obviously, when I filed it at the time, I judiciously used the word that it be recognized, not be challenged. So I don't want anybody to think we were challenging the building inspector's ruling, because I did see since then the records that I got that it's been determined recently, at least twice, that it is a single-family home. That being said, historically, again, we're asking that it be made by variance into a two-family for several reasons. The first is this particular home, which they have lived in for 37 years, and Brendan was the head swimming coach of Brockton High School for 50 years. They're Brocktonians all the way. They bought, historically, this house was built in 1788. That whole corner where Cumberland and their house is known as Marshall's Corner. They live in, that is the homestead of the Marshalls. We get this situation because in 2020, there was a fire that destroyed the second section of this house. The first section, which was the Marshall's home and subsequent family, the addition was put on, the best records that I can find was somewhere around 1840 something, that second section, which was where the fire was. The fire itself, okay, was determined, and again, I've talked many times since the O'Neills had hired me with Deputy Williams, because he handled that fire. And it was quite a fire, and the cause of that fire was the kid that was living in there was a car special mechanic. He was charging a lithium battery and left the house. The thing melted, exploded, and it burnt the entire second section. The O'Neills would tell you that when they bought this house in 1984, there was already a tenant there, and their information from their seller was that many people, unrelated, so it's not like a family situation, lived in that second section, had a stove, refrigerator, bedroom. Was what we call an SRO, a single room occupancy situation. In my discussions with Deputy Williams, he kind of deferred the situation, saying, as far as the city records go, it's a single family, but it was noted, and I will, if you already don't have it, the two building, most recent building authorizations indicate it's a single family, but Mr. Plouffe's predecessor, Mr. Kassiri, indicated that it was a 2-unit situation. And his note, if you don't have that, is that it was a mother-in-law, a father-in-law, in-law apartment, okay? I know the city, I guess, we still don't recognize those situations, but that was historically one reason for that situation. And if you don't have it, I have copies for all the members of the board indicating Mr. Kassiri's determination it was a single family, but it was 2 units, so it's a little bit of a conflict situation. The second thing is that, and we're going way back, I can't even determine.
Hold on 1 second. Is this the document that's dated August 24th, 2010?
Yes.
I don't see anything on here that says anything about 2 units.
About 2 units,
On the bottom.
at the bottom, 2 units.
Okay, I got it. All right.
Okay?
This back one.
It was consistently occupied by unrelated people when they bought it in 1984. Again, they've lived there for 37 years. And you can see it's a very old assessors situation, but it clearly, up at the top, indicates it's a 2-family. The situation presently is that before they pulled a building permit, because it also, the water damage to their own main house caused significant damage naturally. And before they spent enough money, they wanted to find out whether or not they could, if you will, re-breathe life back into the, what they feel was a 2-family. All during their occupancy since '84, it has been occupied. Sometimes with relatives. I believe the father and brother of hers occupied it for a while, but there were several other, like this kid that was there during the fire, paying rent, a continuous situation as a separate unit, a separate part of that house. I would suggest that it is certainly a unique parcel, never mind its history, but the size of it, it's 1.4 plus acres. It has a brook running through it. Not all of that land obviously would be usable, but the shape of that land certainly, in my opinion, legally, is a hardship. The entrance and exits, which are going to have Scott indicate to you, on the proposal that we have, there are two separate entrance and exits that would clearly, if there were a fire, and at this time I would digress and say, obviously with the age of that building, it could remain a tinderbox. So new construction would be something that certainly from a fire point of view would be safe, much safer than the present situation if they would just rebuild and try to save some of that situation. But Scott, indicate to the board on that situation if you would.
Sure. As Attorney Creedon said, the small rectangle behind the main building is the burned out section, the second unit that we would call it. We have two entrances shown, the existing main entrance right on the long side of the house, and then we would be proposing a secondary entrance out the back of that house. So the main dwelling at 794 has two entrances. This newly constructed repair would have two entrances as well. The one other thing I'd like to just bring your attention to, Mr. Chairman, is they do have an existing paved driveway that ends and turns into a gravel driveway in the back alongside an existing garage with a little gravel turnout area right off of Pearl Street. So right now they have what would essentially be 3 existing parking spaces plus a garage. So as part of this proposal, we're proposing to expand the gravel parking area for 2 additional spaces. So there would be 5 spaces on the ground and 1 in the garage if needed. So we feel like we have ample parking on the site for this, this additional unit.
It'd be very clear, members of the board, that there would be no access from the main house into this addition and no ability for the tenant to get into the main house without entering, going out of their place and going, in other words, it's not a pass-through situation at all. It's always, as we think, been existing as a second unit to that house. Obviously, there's plenty of green space. The brook, I've seen it many times, it flows quite nicely. It's right behind, this is only 2 or 3 houses from Cumberland. So it's obviously, which I should address traffic, and that is that during rush hour, Pearl Street, as all of you know, is a disaster, which gets me to the point that Sally and Brendan have said during rush hours, none of us have ever, since 1984, tried to take a left there. Everybody goes right. So from a safety point of view, if there were a new tenant in there, they would be advised that you can't get out because of the intersection. I think there's 5 or 6 streets coming in there. Again, Scott addressed the parking lot situation. I think the gravel situation is much more environmentally preferred, and there's plenty of space if we want to make other spaces. I think that's basically, again, the hardship is the shape of that land. And you can see that it certainly is the largest one in that area because it was the Marshall's homestead. From what I understand from the history that Sally and I got into, they owned all of that land around there, you know, 30, 40, 50 acres at one time. But that's going back into the 1800s. The existing structure will stay the same, obviously. Be a new firewall. They did get that serious water damage, which was expected, and they want to get a building permit and move on with the situation. It's been a pretty tough year and a half on that. But anything else?
Board members, any questions, comments?
Just one bedroom, kitchen, bath. That's no change from what it was prior.
No, no change inside. It will still have the one stove, one fridge, one bedroom in the SRO.
On the hardship here, it looks like you're looking for a use variance here for this. What has that got to do with the size of the shape of the lot? How do we tie
Well, a
that
lot
together?
of the land, as I indicated, is probably unusable. That makes it usable because of the brook. We certainly would probably, if we changed the house itself and added anything more onto it, then we'd have to go to conservation and all these other things. This will not impact the actual structures that were there.
So this addition on the back that suffered the fire
Yes,
was used by a family member and then by a non-family member. It's been kind of used for a lot of
yes,
different
and
things.
prior to them getting there, there was already in that unit a non-family member.
All right, so my investigation goes back at least to 1965, where this was classified as a single-family house, back, as far back at least to 1965, okay? If this was granted a two-family, that does not change the zoning. That remains a single family. It doesn't change it. The one concern that I have is that if this is granted to be a two-family, the location can then support a two-family house. What we're looking at, I think, right now is the rehabilitation of this area in the back that was damaged by the fire. If this is granted to be a two-family, they can do whatever they want up there. They can add a second floor to that thing in the rear. They can change the house. They can do whatever they want because it's now designated a two-family dwelling on that lot. And we have had situations where we have had plans submitted to us that indicated to us that certain things were going to be done, and a vote was taken based upon what was presented to us, and then we go back later on and find out that because we granted a two-family or a three-family or whatever, it opened the Pandora's box where this dwelling could be changed to pretty much anything they want.
Mr. Chairman, that might be a good area then to condition it that no further addition, we've done that over the years, no further addition to that property to convert it up, down, or any way. They're gonna be there for the rest of their active life, so it's...
So what they're telling us is that the current existing house will remain as it is, and this area that was damaged by the fire is the part that's going to be reconstructed. When you look at the plans for this thing, I'm really kind of a little bit dismayed here on the size of the rooms that are in this thing. I mean, this is only 477 square feet. This is a very, very small unit. When you look at the kitchen, the size of the bathroom, I don't know how you can get a three-piece unit in that bathroom, to be honest with you. I'm just speaking.
It's likely that it would be a single room by one single person, you know, because it is a small unit. It's certainly not going to be a family with bedrooms and children.
So if this was reconstructed, it could be used as a family member occupancy, as long as it doesn't turn into a unit that has all of the appliances of a single-family house. So the idea here is to allow that to happen, so that you can have a full bathroom, full kitchen, full everything. That's the intent of going to this two-family. I would say, isn't that true?
I would say...
That, on my floor plan, Mr. Chairman, where we have the bathroom, that was the existing bathroom. There is a pipe there for the toilet, there's a pipe there for the sink, so it's, that plumbing is there in that bottom corner of that unit already. So it is small, but it would, toilet, sink, and shower, I suppose, would squeeze in there.
Mrs. O'Neill tells me there's never been, during their existence, more than one person living in there, a single person, for what it's worth.
Okay.
Chairman, if I could real quick, Counselor, did I understand correctly? They haven't been able to be able to fix parts of the house proper because of the water damage because of that? Is that what I understood? I guess I was a little confused when that was
They want
spoken.
to get a contractor to do everything all at once, get a price and go from there.
Okay.
So they've been holding off doing that until they can see if we can have back the
Okay.
two-family, single-room occupancies.
Understood. Okay, I just was confused. I thought maybe they weren't able to even do any work on the house proper yet because of that, but that's not the case.
Yeah, they put a new roof on, yeah. It has a new roof.
So this has been assessed all this time as a single-family house, even though it has been used as a two-family. Obviously from 1965, anyway.
I would say, but again, the notes from Mr. Kasseri, it's always been a second unit, and their history and the people they bought it from and their own experience has been, there's always been one person in there
Yeah, I
as a
understand.
tenant, non-related to them, other than for a short while, her father and her brother.
For a long while. His
Oh,
son, for a long
Yeah, Brendan's father.
Okay, board members, any other comments, questions?
It just, my only thing is, would there be the ability to put a stipulation on it to not change any of the structure in regards to, I know you're concerned, Mr. Chairman, of going up and putting that stipulation. That has to be a red flag to the building permit, though, the building department, for any permit that's drawn, obviously, moving forward, long after the O'Neills move out of the house. But would there be the ability to put a stipulation on that the actual structure of that second unit does not change at all, kind of to what the counselor brought up earlier?
I guess you probably could put that stipulation, but we will be granting this location to be a two-family house. So even though that addition that we're talking about there may be confined to what it is, I don't know what control we will have over what happens to the main house. So if this is determined to be a two-family house and they sold the property, somebody else would come in and take that main house and make that into a two-family if they wanted to.
On top of the separate
Yep.
unit off the back?
Mr. Chairman, might I suggest when that person were to go for a building permit, the zoning would be checked and the condition would be checked?
You would hope so,
You would
correct.
hope so, exactly. Sure.
That was kind of what I was getting at. There would obviously be a red flag thrown on that. It would be seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Superintendent, that could not then be changed if the stipulation was put on it.
Correct, but I do think it would be hard not to let somebody renovate or add an addition onto their own house.
But now then you could potentially be making that into a three-family, because now you've granted that back unit.
No, the use would stay at two. You wouldn't be allowed to increase the number of units.
So I guess that's my point, then, 2 units, that unit, the house, main house, and then if they wanted to put something else on that, and that would make it a 3-unit, then they'd have to come back before zoning again.
Yes.
Okay, so that, as long as that was checked by the building department, a red flag was placed there, I think, that's just, just to understand correctly what we could do to see how that could, I guess my point is not to hamper the current owners for the future, your owners, is my concern.
Okay, any other questions?
Mr. Chair, if I
from
could,
board members?
where is the next closest multifamily?
Right next door is kind of a large red house, and
It appears to be.
Again, I think it's listed as single family, but there's 10 cars in the driveway at all times,
Okay.
different doors. It would appear to be a multifamily. Whether it
Okay,
is-
but by use, it's single?
It has 8 bedrooms, Mrs. O'Neill
Okay.
said.
And after that?
Probably Marshall's Corner.
Yeah, right at the fork in the road there.
Everything north of here would be single-family, everything around it. All right, anybody else, any board members are all set? All right, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official here that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Public hearing is closed. Now I'll open it up to deliberations by the board. Board members.
It's a tricky one.
It's understandable. I think the concern is the use of what it was, what it's been, and what it will be going forward. And I understand that. The concern is and the way I look at this is I don't want to hamper the current owner of the property due to what it could be 20 years, 30 years from now. That's my concern. So if that then gets thrown onto the building superintendent and his department to make sure that that red flag goes up, that these things don't get changed, because then, like you said, Mr. Pluff, that could then come out as, you know, they can put an addition on, but is that addition, it can't be a third unit. This would be classed for that second unit with, you know, and again, my opinion is to have a stipulation on it that they can't change the structure proper. It is what it is. It is what it has always been, and we leave it at that, and then not allow it to change from there, because obviously, as the council states, that's not the intention. I know a lot of the chairman's concern, of kind of what he mentioned earlier, in regards to the blacktop issues, are other issues that have, what's been granted and what has become, sometimes are not one and the same. And that's the unfortunate part. But we have to leave that and the dutifulness of the building inspectors to make sure that's checked on and addressed. You know, I think us as the zoning board is to address the zoning issue and what we can potentially do to not fix a problem, but address a problem that obviously, as the council states, has been something that's been ongoing for years and probably didn't realize there was an issue until, unfortunately, they had a fire. And I would say, without making the hardship, I think that's kind of, I would say maybe part of the hardship. But that's just all I have to say. I'm not sure.
One of my concerns would be just setting the precedent up Pearl Street for multifamily use. That just has to come into consideration.
I just want to go back for a minute to the petitioner. In your request, you were requesting relief from lot size and frontage. What was that all about? Seems to me lot size is not a problem.
No, but if it's, the variance is granted for two-family, we've got to come up to the current standards, and...
We're way beyond that.
Huh?
And the frontage was, what, 192 feet? Frontage?
Yeah, it's beyond the 175.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Okay.
maybe it was precautionary, I'm not sure.
Okay. I just want to make sure it wasn't something I missed.
Yeah.
Okay. I will express my concern that granting this as a two-family, I don't know where this will lead to in the future, that even though it retains its single-family zoning, the variance would allow a two-family, which would then allow whatever could happen on that property. And the enforcement of what goes on that property becomes a burden on the city. I honestly don't see what the hardship was here, other than the shape of the lot. This portion of this building that was destroyed by the fire can be rebuilt. It can be reused for what it was used in the past as an extra room for a family member. It can't be used as an in-law that has all the appliances and kitchen and all the stuff that goes with a single-family house. However, the room can still be used. I am very concerned at the size of this addition being used as a separate entity, as a two-family. This is a very, very tiny addition on the back of this house. I'm just concerned that down the road, this may morph into something that is not what's before us tonight. We've seen that happen in the past, and I think there's a precedent being set here that in that single-family area, there's a reason why It is a single family, it's an old house, it's a big old farmhouse. This addition was put on for probably a family member to live there, and then it was used for whatever reason. So my opinion is that that can be rebuilt if they want to rebuild it, but I have a problem with it being a two-family. That's my opinion. Any other board members want to? Everybody good? Well, the chair would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to grant.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Delanus,
Yes.
Chief Nardelli,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
No.
Chair Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chair, that's 2 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative.
The vote is 2 in the negative, 2 in the affirmative. The petition is denied.
Thank you, members of the board.
Thank you. That should conclude our meeting for tonight. Very good. I am going to close the meeting.